Hey y'all, it's Steve, the OG Guitar Nut. Hope you're doing well this week, have done well this week, and will do well in the next week. Whatever. As promised, this episode is going to be about me chasing my tail, chasing a sound that I've been after, that I want to incorporate into my new band. It's going to be an interesting one. I'll warn you in advance, if you don't want to hear a bunch of talking, well, if you didn't want to hear a bunch of talking, you probably wouldn't be here. That's pretty much all I do, right? If you don't have any interest in some obscure technology and so forth, then you can just tune out now, because it's going to get weird and deep. So first, little housekeeping. We are now 16 people away from 300 subscribers, which is kind of cool. That'll change up and down and sideways a bit. It always does, but really looking forward to that landmark 300 point. It doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of things, but it's pretty cool to me that our little community here is growing. Let's see, news. What's in the news this week? Every big YouTuber and apparently their brother has gotten free $2,000 Fender guitars and or basses this week. Fender's released yet another line of Strats, Tellies, a Jazz Master, and a Jazz Bass, maybe a P Bass, I don't remember. It's a vintage series that's supposed to faithfully recreate older models. I don't know. I didn't get one. Who knows? Maybe someday. Maybe we'll have a, what do they call it, a viral video, and this channel will just explode at some point. I understand something like that happened to Phil McKnight, and he's now looking at the 100 million views mark and has, ridiculous number of subscribers. So anything can happen, right? What else? Oh, I made a decision about the future of this Operation Chickenbacker thing. People are still asking me to not give up on the concept just because the one I got was garbage. Largely because a lot of you would like to order one, assuming, we can find a source that makes good ones, right? And so what I'd like to do, I want to try to get together like $1,000, hopefully with some help from some viewers. And I want to find the top 3 builders on AliExpress, probably including Ming, our Chibson friend, and order one Chickenbacker guitar, probably the same model, maybe the same color even, from each, and see what we wind up with. And hopefully at least one of the 3 would wind up being a winner, and then something I can recommend to you viewers. So if that's something you're interested in, let me know. And if you want to, contribute, by all means, go to the Patreon link and click on that, or just, you can always directly PayPal it up, I'll include that information down there too. And if you just want to email me and, I don't know, send ugly comments that you didn't feel like sharing below, you can do that too. rickenbackeranonymous@gmail.com is still the email. So onward to the subject of the video. I have a sound in my head. It's actually comprised of a couple of individual sounds blended together, and some of my favorite sounds. And I just have this thing that I want to get out of my head, and I'm not sure how to go about doing it. But I have an idea, a couple of ideas, but one in particular. First off, let me tell you what the sounds are. 2 of my absolute favorite sounds in music, in rock and roll specifically, are the sound of a cello played aggressively and of a baritone saxophone. And the reasons being, I can literally give you a little clip of why I fell in love with these sounds specifically. Hopefully these tiny little clips won't be enough to get me a copyright strike. Not that I really care. I mean, there's nothing to demonetize here, but I don't feel like getting my hand slapped, right? The cellos I first fell in love with because of the Beach Boys song, Good Vibrations. And here's a little clip of what they sound like in that context. So yeah, it's a kind of an aggressive sound, and honestly, I hear that and I think heavy. I could hear that being incorporated into heavy music, heavy rock, heavy metal. In fact, it's, there's a band called, was it Apocalyptica, is it? That does Metallica songs on a couple of cellos. Is that who it was? I don't know. They're out there, and they do exactly that. But anyway, so there's that sound, and I've always wanted to find a way to replicate that with a guitar. And the other sound, as I mentioned, is a baritone saxophone. And my love for that actually came from listening to the Dave Clark Five. They had a sax player who played Barry a lot. And in some of their songs, it literally sounds like there's a bunch of distortion, even though there are no distortion effects at all. It's just that baritone saxophone sawing away underneath, making everything sound really heavy and aggressive. And again, I don't play heavy and aggressive music, but I like these sounds. So to give you an idea, here's a little clip of the Dave Clark 5, Any Way You Want It, where you can hear very clearly the roar that I'm describing. So right here. So yeah. So what does all this come down to? Well, the sound in my head is actually those two sounds blended together, playing the same parts. And sure, that'd be something easy enough to do on a keyboard. But that's not what I have in mind. I want to be able to play that myself, and I'm not a keyboard player by any stretch of the imagination. And I want to be able to do it live. And sure, the easy way to do it, easy is a relative term, would be to get a MIDI guitar system, a synth guitar, layer those two sounds together, samples or something, and play that way. But I'm not really interested in taking a MIDI guitar on stage. I want to find a way to do it organically. Well, at least semi-organically. So how would you do that? Well, the baritone sax thing, it turns out that there's a pedal from Electro Harmonics called the Mel 9, which is supposed to basically replicate the sound of an old Mellotron keyboard. And it was a strange old keyboard instrument that played back pieces of tape. And one of the sounds that's included on this pedal is a saxophone sound. And it's not the most convincing thing in the world, but it is pretty cool. I'll put a picture of the pedal right here. So that's going to be part of the big plan. And so that still leaves me finding a way to get the cello sound. And there's actually a cello sound on that pedal as well. And I sure, theoretically, I could get two of those pedals and do that, but that's not what I have in mind. I actually want the attack of the cello, the sound of a bow, scraping the strings so that it gets that particular kind of sound. And I think I've come up with a good plan to do that. There's a very obscure gadget that came out in the 70s called the Gizmotron. Here's a picture of a Gizmotron. This is a modern version. It was this strange device developed by Kevin Godley and Lal Cream, who were half of the band 10cc. They wanted to find a way to make their guitars sound like bowed instruments. They came up with this device that plugged into the wall, how convenient, and actually had little wheels that would spin when you pushed buttons. They'd make contact with the strings and get a very authentic bowing sound. Well, because of engineering and supply problems, the original Gizmotron failed. It wasn't a very successful product at all because it didn't work as well as it could have. And it disappeared. And then just a couple of years ago, someone picked up the mantle, bought the name, licensed it, and came out with a new version, a very much improved version of the device. And it supposedly worked out all the bugs that made the original instrument, the original gadget, a failure. So my thought was, okay, I can mount a Gizmotron, and it's going to scrape the strings on the guitar, and that can be my cello sound. I'll just split the sounds off into two different amps or two different channels of a multi-channel amp or however it is. Have one volume control for my sax and one for my cello, and try that. So the only problem there is I'm still not in the frequency range I want to be in. I'm looking for lower notes. So what does that leave me with? Well, a lower guitar. Well, it turns out one of my favorite instruments is the bass 6, in this case by Squier. It's basically a guitar tuned down an entire octave with a really long neck to facilitate big strings. So the idea is this has the note range that I'm looking for. So I want to mount a Gizmotron, an obscure device, to a bass 6, an obscure instrument, and come up with a sound that's unique and obscure. Well, not entirely unique. It turns out that a couple of people have tried it. Right here's a picture of a 6-string bass, bass 6, with a Gizmotron mounted to it, owned by Tom Peterson from Cheap Trick. So it's been done, not in the context I'm doing, but the idea of mounting a Gizmotron. So that's where I'm at. And to that end, I'm going to modify this particular bass 6 in some ways to make it more suitable for the Gizmotron. At this point, let me move the camera and knock some things over. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to switch the view so that you can see the workbench and my thumb. Ah, there I am. Nothing but professional here, folks. Well, I look tired. Worked 74 hours last week, so if I look tired, I am. Forgive me. Not a very flattering light either. Good Lord. So enough of that. Let me switch this around and show you what I got going on here. And we'll take. So here's my workbench. Here's the bass 6. Let's get a little scan of the thing to give you a look. It's just a really huge guitar / bass. The low 4 strings are tuned the same as a bass, but because they're skinny, they give a very different tone. And see here, if you're not familiar, these switches govern the 3 pickups. This last switch is referred to colloquially as a strangle switch. And what it does is it's a high-pass filter, so it cuts out a lot of the low-end tone, the lower frequencies, so that when you're playing this along with an actual 4-string bass, they don't step on each other. Even though they're in the same note range, they're not in the same timbre, if that makes sense. So they can, live in harmony with each other. So a couple of things I want to do. First off, these things actually have a vibrato system. I don't have the bar on here because I don't use it, but I have a piece of foam here because if you don't, these notes tend to ring out, and I'm not into that. I want to remove the vibrato system. Since it doesn't get used, and to try to facilitate more stable tuning. And for that reason, I have this. This is a custom-made, they call a keyhole replacement bridge. Oh, there I am again. Hello. Yes, I'm recording on a phone. Bridge plate. This will take the space of the existing unit. The strings will go through here, and yeah, that'll be there. And I'm going to wind up putting foam underneath the strings again because they'll still want to resonate, and I don't need that. Just for cosmetic reasons, I've got one of these Fender Jazz Bass bridge covers that I'm going to mount right here, just because, well, to be honest, I think it's going to be a cool look, and it'll hide the ball ends of the strings and things, which I believe I'm using Diodario strings, so they've got colored ball ends that I don't like the look of. So that's what it's going to be, and the Gizmotron will mount pretty much right here, and it'll make contact with the strings, and then there'll be buttons right here behind the bridge that I'll push to activate the wheels. Now I've found that my favorite sound from a 6-string bass, a bass 6 like this, comes from the middle pickup exclusively. I almost never use my neck or bridge pickups. So my thought was, in the interest of simplifying things and to hopefully mitigate any possible motor noise, that Gizmotron actually has an electric motor in it that whirs and could be picked up by a pickup. That's hence the name pickup. I want to remove these 2 pickups, which means I won't need this switching system. So I'm going to lose this plate. Going to have a custom pick guard made in black, since I'm going to go for a mostly black look. I will leave this actual switch that's under here intact, since it'll fit down inside the body, be covered up. And I'll just leave this particular configuration, which is the pickup, which will be the only pickup existing, turned on, and the strangle switch on. And, well, I can show you a picture of what I sent to the pickguard maker, and I'll put that on the screen right now. Yeah, picture in picture is nice, right? And what I'm going to finally wind up with is going to look like, well, I'll show you a picture. I've made a mock-up in MS Paint, since I don't know how to use Photoshop, nor do I have Photoshop, and it's going to look like this. And then I'll have this plate and the Gizmotron mounted, and it should be really interesting. So anyway, here's a good shot again of my workbench, my tools, my tuner, my tackle box full of parts, and my money bag. And I'm back in the room. Bonus points for any of you that know that particular reference. Pretty sure Gavin will know it. Hi, Gavin. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. This is going to be a project, and it could be a fool's errand. It might not work out at all. Who knows? I guess I'm going to find out. This is going to be a multi-part video, since I don't have all the parts I need yet. And once it's all here, well, I'm not sure if any of you actually want to see the mods while they're happening. Probably just want to see the finished product and hear the finished product. I know I'm excited to hear it. I put together a specific pedal board for this instrument, and I dug out an old PV 4-channel PA/keyboard amp that I had down in my catacombs that I intend to run at least 3, if not all 4 channels out of. One for the clean sound of the instrument, one for the synthesized baritone sax sound, one just with effects, you know, like maybe some chorusing and things, and then maybe one dedicated to a fuzz pedal so I can get a little more dirt if I need it. I don't know, we'll figure it out. And then I'd be able to blend the sounds together with the 4 channel volumes and just wind up with one tone. Who knows if it's going to work? Fingers crossed that it does. You know, you got to try things, right? And I'm excited about this. It'll be interesting. It'll be definitely a unique thing, and it'll give my band a unique sound, assuming it works out. You know, there's even a chance I'm going to wind up with something that doesn't sound particularly like a cello or a bari sax, but it could still be a sound that is very distinctive and usable, and it could be the signature thing for me. Who knows? But I'm going to try. I mentioned in the last episode that I actually sold my genuine Gibson SG Junior to fund this project. Yeah, for better or for worse, this is it. So you think I'm nuts, or did I just confirm what you already believe, which is that I'm nuts? If so, you know, leave a comment in the, you know, down below. I'll have some links to things. I'll put down a link to the Gizmotron. By all means, if you're interested, search Gizmotron on YouTube. You'll see some videos of people using it, mostly on guitars, of course, although they also have bass models. And see for yourself how the thing works. I mean, I'm going to demonstrate it for you later, of course, but if you're just curious in the meanwhile, get on there and check it out, because it's pretty cool. It's not cheap, but it's definitely a cool thing. And if you're willing to put in the time to A, get it properly installed, and B, you know, learn how to use it, because it's going to be a new discipline, which I'm looking forward to the challenge, honestly. Check it out. I wanted to say hi to a couple of people. I already said hi to Gavin. I want to say hi to Steve, who is going to be buying my Harmony Rocket guitar whenever I can find a way to get it out to him in the Virginias. I want to say hi to Dwayne, since he's been here from the very beginning. And just to tell him, if you ever make your way down here to Nashville, I've got about half a dozen guitars to bequeath upon you. I'll just fill up your back seat and trunk with guitars, like a lot of those ones I used for the last episode. You know, I'm not handing out any Rickenbackers or anything high-end, but I've got a whole raft now of guitars that I need to get rid of that aren't doing me any good and don't have any particular monetary value, although they'd be really cool things to have, for someone's recording arsenal. You saw them in the last episode. So, all the usual things. If you haven't already, subscribe. Let's see that 300 number. That'd be kind of cool. Like, ring the bell, leave a comment by all means and tell me, what you think about this thing, or if you have any Gizmotron stories, or, who knows. Maybe you built something of your own once upon a time and tried it out. I'd be curious to hear because, innovations are out there, right? And even the failures are interesting. So this was it. I think the next time you see me will probably be after the rest of the parts come in and I get this thing modified. If it takes a long time, more than a week, to get these parts, I'll probably just put out another episode on some other, usual topic. We'll see. But until then, this has been Steve. You've been you. You're beautiful, babe. Don't change. Stay frosty, stay cool, chime on, and I'll see you soon. Alrighty? I'm out.